This is the blueprint, where we decode the DNA of leadership, innovation, and impact. Every episode, we explore the mindset, the mission, and the mechanics behind this region's most visionary changemakers. He is one of the boldest voices in tech and entrepreneurship in the Caribbean. Kyle Maloney doesn't just talk innovation, he lives it. From co-founding TechBeach retreats to launching Chef Made and now serving on the board of directors of Tattle, he's building a legacy rooted in possibility. His story is about scale. It's about betting on the big ideas in the region, despite being told to think small. And what about what happens when you choose to create the ecosystem that you want to live in? I am your host, Dr. Jelani Reed, and this is the blueprint of Kyle Maloney.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Jelani.
Excellent.
What do you call it, Doc?
Hey. Jelani's fine. So, Kyle, on the blueprints, we always try to get the behind the scenes.
Yeah, man.
We know who you are today, but we want to know who you once were. Where did you come from? Where did you live? And how did that inform the person you are today?
Wow. So I had a pretty colorful childhood from the perspective that I lived in a number of places. So I was born in Green Hill Village in Diego Martin, right? That area is like right before Bagatelle, you know? So lived there for a few years in my younger formative years, then moved to Diamond Vale. So I was a Vale boy, you know? Then I went St. Mary's College. And during that time, was that face for, boy?
Because you didn't have the opportunity to go to a good school, Queen's Royal College.
Well, look, listen. I wouldn't hold that against you. I think we started on a good foot, you know, man. I wouldn't derail the conversation.
All right, go ahead.
From there, I lived in Londonville, Shogunas, and then moved to Tacarigua, Crong Street, and then moved down to Woodbrook. So I've been around a number of areas of the country, and it's really helped to shape my perspective and have such a deep appreciation for a number of areas across the country, man. And so from that perspective, it was a very interesting childhood. I was blessed to have a dad as an entrepreneur that really believed in his kids. I'm the first of five. And my mom was more the disciplinarian. And that's usually how things fall in families many times. And she was the one that was like, go, make sure you go get your degree and that sort of thing. My dad was like, the world is your oyster, and go out there and be whoever you want to be and create value, you know, solve problems, you know. And that sort of thinking of how do I create value, how do I solve problems, really shaped me into who I became, who I have become. I've never had a job in my life, you know. The only times I've done resumes is to apply for project financing or board positions, but never actually to get a job.
So basically, you are the child that mommy always had to deal with.
For sure. Oh God. Even now, as I leave home, she was by me. I always trouble my mother. I tell her that's always keep her young, you know.
Okay, so you had, from your mother's perspective,
Yeah.
Kyle must go to school, get his degree,
Yeah.
I guess get a government job or 8-to-4 job.
Yeah.
And you had the contrasting view from dad, where
Yeah.
it is that the world is a playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle decided to go with dad's point of view.
Yeah.
How was that in terms of family dynamics, and why did you choose dad's view as opposed to mom, if I'll put it that way?
Yeah. So I did my undergrad in aerospace engineering at a university called Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And in university, I would never forget, after my first semester, talking to my father was like, you start a business yet? Like, no, daddy. When I reach home, I finish school, I'll look to start something. He said, boy, I make one smart child, but you real stupid. I say, what do you mean by that? He said, you in the land of opportunity. You know, you have all the banking, you have the finance, you have the networks, you have all of that there. And in starting your first business, it's not about winning on the out the gates. It's about all the learnings and the networks and everything that you're gonna gain when you actually get out there and do something and take the things that you're reading a book and put it into practical real life. And so in that same semester, my brother and I were 2 years apart, and so we went to university together. Big up yourself, Nicholas. We, together with two other co-founders in our university, started a website that allows students to buy and sell items from each other. And we learned how to build our first technology product, learn how to generate revenue, hire teams, set up company, pay taxes, all of that stuff. And we were generating 3,000 to 4,000 US a month from this platform that we built. In university, that's a big deal, and we became very known in university for this platform that we built and engineers that became entrepreneurs and that sort of thing. And by the time I was finished with school, I was very set that I was going to be a technology entrepreneur. So that was my first venture, and came home and the snowball started to pick up.
So basically, you are our Trinidad and Tobago version of Jeff Bezos.
Man, so far from, that's a dream, man. This is a dream. I need that to reflect in terms of the size of impact.
But scaling.
Exactly.
So before we get to that point, so let's dive into the university. So
Yeah.
you are doing not an ordinary degree, and yet still you're pursuing your studies,
Yeah.
and you're carrying out a business venture that is new,
Yeah.
brand new, and
Yeah.
based on what I'm understanding, it seems as though the functioning of a business as well was new to you.
For sure.
How was that experience?
I mean, I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. So my father had like 7 shoe stores in Port of Spain back in the 90s and early 2000s. So I grew up next to him all the time. Like, he would travel so often. His thing all the time was like, with American Airlines, he had over 3 million miles of travel, so he traveled quite a lot. And in between vacations, I was blessed to be able to go to different trade shows and manufacturers and distributors. And so I grew up in a space of business, and seeing him negotiate and that sort of thing. He was always one to bring his little sons in the room, come and see this, come and see this. So there was already a sense of comfort building in being able to understand the ropes of how to negotiate, how to speak to people, how to focus on getting a result. A lot of things that deal with risk. I think that's a huge thing. Deal with a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people, reason that they go get jobs is because they want something that's sure and certain. I've grown a lot of deep comfort with being uncomfortable and with managing the unknown and the risk of not knowing what's next and where your next paycheck is going to come from. That doesn't even resonate with me as such a deep fear anymore. It's just now part of my life. It's just the way it's been, that I know that I need to get up and go get if I have to eat, I have to go find it.
So tell me something. At some point of time, you would have had to have that conversation with mom. And say, well, mom, I know academics important, but and having a stable job is important.
Yeah.
However, I am going to divert, and this is what I'm pursuing. How was that conversation?
Well, it wasn't like a singular conversation, right? It wasn't like that. It was more while we were building this company, we were always sharing the problems, challenges, opportunities, the wins throughout. And her thing was, make sure that's not distracting you. That's not distracting you from your schoolwork. Don't bring home no set of bad grades here because you're paying a lot of money for you to be out there so don't waste it. All right. So she was driving that. So she knew all the time what was coming down the line. The books were coming home. So I was reading the different business books like Jim Collins, Built to Last and Good to Great are some really strong foundational books that I recommend anyone that's trying to build a business to read. Other books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, foundational book to really help shape your mind and think about think about relationships, think about just the scale and bigness of how to operate. And so she saw these things, these books, and the way that my brother and I began to speak changed drastically. We began not talking about like our engineering projects and these sorts of things, but more in terms of like value creation, opportunity, scaling, raising capital, like the dynamic of us and the kinds of conversations that we had changed. So
She
for
saw
her,
your
it wasn't
passion.
exactly, and she saw the passion as well. So it wasn't like a conversation per se. She saw the shift gradually happening. So that by the time when I was finished with school, the decision that I made wasn't a surprise, even though it was quite frustrating for her.
So now this is a question that young people
Yeah.
who are in your position, or even young adults who would have started a career path,
Mm-hmm.
knowing when to pivot,
Yeah.
knowing when, okay, probably the course that I am or trajectory that I am on isn't the one for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go into something new,
Yeah.
something that I have no background or safeguard with.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know when it was your time to pivot, and how did you deal with those aspects of it?
Yeah, man. Good question. I think that's a popular question that people struggle with, right? Uh, I am like deeply spiritually rooted. And so um, uh, I believe that God um, makes things clear for you over time, and it's really up to you to listen. And so um, you spend, I think it's important that you spend time in quiet, listening to yourself and asking yourself, like, what direction is God trying to take me in? Because many times He's trying to show you a door, show you an opportunity, push you in a direction, but you just don't want to go, you know? Um, and for me, the the I guess the thing that I use to make decisions, because I've changed paths so many times, is that I say, God, if you don't want this for me, you would close the door, right? And you would make a path for me that is clear, that I know that this is my path. So that's what I pray for all the time. I pray for that sense of clarity in that way. What door is closed, and it's not rejection, it's redirection, right? And so what door has He closed for me that I would have otherwise perceived as rejection, but it's actually God redirecting me to the path that I actually need to go, you know?
That was deep.
Yeah,
And it gives a clear understanding as well as the importance of faith,
for sure.
because there is scripture on it. However, we understand that faith is going, although you do not know where you are going.
Yeah, yeah.
You just have that solid belief.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kyle, reflecting on standing now and looking back, you, as you would have indicated, you would have pivoted a couple of times.
Yeah,
You would have changed courses and many things that would have happened along
for
your
sure.
life. And that speaks about resilience.
For sure.
What does resilience mean for you?
Yeah, man. I mean, quite frankly, it's underspoken about in the path to success as a young person, right? When you're in school, there is so much emphasis and focus on academic ability that you believe that if you do well in school, success is guaranteed, right? And it is only the people that have done well in school will be successful. And then the people who have not done well in school are destined for failure, right? That is like the box that we've lived in our schooling, right? When in reality, it is the person and the people that are most resilient and adaptable are the ones that are successful. Because I've seen a number of people who have been academically strong go on to lead lives that they feel that are unfulfilled, right? And so how it comes to the question of how do you define success? Success for me is a life that is fulfilled, that you're following and walking in your purpose passionately, and the work that you do has a lot of deep meaning to you and has impact, right? And so I have seen a lot of people then on the flip end who have not been academically strong, have been able to find and align with their purpose and calling, and combine that with a sense of like deep grit and fight because they know that this is what they're here to do, become tremendously successful. And so that piece of resilience and grit is the defining piece that connects you from that connects you to success for sure, 100%.
Okay. So, Kyle, TechBeach was a bold move.
Yeah.
It wasn't a small feat at all. What was the impetus for that startup?
Yeah, cool. So for those of you that don't know, TechBeach is the number one technology community in the Caribbean, and we host the leading technology events, bringing together top players in technology from companies like Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, who created ChatGPT. A lot of the big technology players, we bring them together with people who are building companies and top professionals across industries in the region and across the world. And so we've done an incredible job of building that community of over 10,000 people that would have passed through our platforms and formed part of our community. In addition to that, TBR has our what we call accelerator programs. So it's programs that support early stage businesses in helping them navigate their growth. 8-week programs to pair them with curriculum, mentorship, and access to capital. And then the final piece of what we're working on is an investment fund to be able to invest in these opportunities that we're seeing across the region and in our diaspora, right? And so this is who we are at TechBeach. And so to answer the question then, how did I take this bold move? What inspired it actually came from one of my biggest failures, right? I started another company called First. And First was meant to be like Yelp for the Caribbean. You open your phone, this app, search any business you're looking for, see reviews. And then the idea was that you'll be able to order from these businesses and have it delivered to your home. And that's the vision and trajectory of what we're working on with First. And so with that vision and a really robust team, I was one of 4 co-founders. We were able to attract investment from Digicel. Digicel invested a couple $1 million US for 25% of that business. And we were on a really strong growth trajectory. Fast forward a year later, that ended up failing. We ended up running out of cash. There was a lot of like nuances and details what happened, but less important. And so TechBeach was born to solve the problem of the lack of enabling environment for technology companies like what we did with First to grow and scale. So with First, when we got money from Digicel, we didn't have other investors. We didn't have too much mentors within our space, and the team that we had in terms of the staff didn't come from technology. So they had a lot of adapting to do. And so TechBeach was born to bring all of these pieces together, have these people interact, have more options for investors, for partners, for all of these things. And so this is the ethos and energy of where it came from. And we just continue to grow through that authentic experience that I would have had. And my co-founder, who's Jamaican, a business person as well, young entrepreneur as well, we'd experienced this in such very tangible ways. And so that ethos has driven us to where we are today.
So, Kyle, you said it as though it was like a by the way, right? But let's unpack that a bit.
Yeah.
So you had your first big idea, which was First.
Yeah.
And it didn't go according to plan, as you identified it was a failure.
Yeah.
However, there is a next chapter.
Yeah, man.
So the next chapter occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Not many persons are able to turn from that failure to the next chapter. That's where I want to dive into.
Yeah.
How was that experience where this is something that you have been telling the world?
Mm-hmm.
You know that this is it, this is the big project, this is the big idea.
Yeah.
You got the people to back you, to support you,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't go according to plan. How did that feel? And obviously there would have been the emotional roller coaster.
For sure.
How did you get back up?
Yeah, man. So I think a huge piece for me, as relative to other people on the team, was that I come from an environment where I've seen my dad fail and get back up, do well, and then have a number of stumbles to get to a place of success, And so I just know that this was just not the end of the journey, but just another stepping stone on the course. And quite frankly, I was pretty young. I am 37 now, and that was 10 years ago, right? I was 26, 27, you know? And so to have accomplished all that we accomplished together in such a short space of time, I just know that whatever was the next, I know God had a plan, and so I was really exhausted at that time. But I never lose faith in knowing that there is something next, and this chapter was now closed. You know, like I said, I'm deeply spiritual in that sense, where when I feel like I know I've fought and I've done everything, I just then trust that God knows where my path is next, and I took time to rest and really didn't think about trying to do anything else for a little bit. And then this opportunity with TechBeach came to me, and I also then pivoted first from the app and the website into a marketing agency, because we did such a good job with the marketing. So many brands actually reached out to us to help them with their marketing. And so over the last decade, I've really worked with so many brands on their digital marketing and digital strategy overall. And so I've held two hats, one on the TechBeach side that I've given much more visibility to, because I believe there's so much scalability to what we're doing at TechBeach. And then first side that helped me to continue to sharpen my marketing mind and work on a range of projects that I could continue to leverage in the work that I mostly care about, which was the work that we're doing at TechBeach. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I understand. So it's young Kyle,
Yeah,
20,
man.
27. Well,
Yeah,
let me start
yeah.
at 25, right?
Yeah.
Going into boardrooms and pitching ideas.
Mm-hmm.
He did it on one occasion, then he did it later on in his life, and well, continues to do that. That is really and truly one of the biggest issues or biggest grievances
Yeah.
that young entrepreneurs have. How
Yeah.
to pitch their idea to
Yeah.
investors.
Yeah.
So how is that? How is that done? What is the Kyle formula?
um. So once again, blessings. I give thanks every time, right? When I was younger, um, I used to people always used to say, "How this voice so fresh?" Right? And in Trini parlance, that mean like he talking to people that bigger than him, like there's the friend, right? And the reason that happened is because you go back to my story that my dad was bringing me into rooms and seeing him negotiate. That sort of interaction between myself and somebody else, I didn't really see people as above me in that way. You know, that barrier got broken down very quickly for me in my life. Every time, like, somebody would say, "What's his name? How old is he?" My father would be like, "You have a tongue in his mouth, you know? Talk to him." Right? And so I would say, "My name is Kyle, I'm 8 years old," or whatever the case is, you know? And so he would always direct everybody to speak directly to me. And so I would get very comfortable with speaking with adults at that time, which then translated into my confidence in speaking publicly. And so the intimidation factor, in summary, wasn't there as much. But then the pitching side of things, it's rehearsal, man. It's understanding how to build what you call a pitch deck, which is the specific structure of how to speak about a business with the important topics that investors would care about: the team, the market, size of the market they're going after, the problem you're going after, the solution they're going to come with, etc. Right? So running through these things just came with a lot of research and then constant practice of pitching that constantly. Yeah.
And then eventually it becomes second nature.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I could just tell it to you off the top of my head like that. It comes 100% second nature.
You know, as you talk more about your dad, it reminds me about mine as well.
Yeah.
You know, I remember my dad. He had a business, hardware, and he ensured no matter how young we were that we had to be in that hardware.
Exactly. Good job.
And his understanding of it, he said, You know, when you look at the Chinese, our Chinese counterparts,
yeah.
in the Chinese store, they have the young person sitting down right there, you know, checking the money, doing everything. Eventually, what would happen? They would get into business, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So that's interesting. Now, Kyle, there's something that you have been saying for some time, which is that raw talent, but weak infrastructure in the Caribbean. And my question is, how do we fix something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes the right leadership that understand deeply the problems, and care enough about fixing them for generations to come. You know, I feel like we operate too often in a short-term mindset, um, and 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 yeah, and it doesn't really get us far enough. You know, and so I'm hopeful that as uh, my generation comes in to various leadership positions, both in private and public sector, we can begin to see the changes that we need to see in order to drive the kinds of results that we know are possible for us. You know?
Mm. You know, earlier on in our chat,
Yeah.
you spoke about there is an importance of inspiration and leaders to inspire the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Why is that important in not only in business, but also in a society as trying to build a future for each
Correct.
other?
Yeah. So in our off-camera conversation, um, I think the first step of leadership is inspiration. Right? It is inspiring your people to believe in this vision of the future that you can see so clearly. And and once you're able to paint that vision clearly for people and excite people around that vision, people will follow. And people will follow because people inherently want to be a part of something greater than themselves. They want to contribute to something bigger than themselves because we inherently know that everything that we experience in this physical life has come because somebody has a vision for that thing and people have contributed to that vision to make it life, you know? And so everything from the clothes that you wear to the floor that we walk on to the building that we're in is because somebody thought, hey, I can make this thing and make this thing for a lot of people. And so, and it would have come because vision of the leader to make that happen, you know? And so that inspiration is foundational to success of anything.
So it's interesting that we're talking about leadership now.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your recent appointment to the Tattle board.
Hey, thank you so much, man.
Now, that is no small feat, right? And obviously, it is a natural progression to what you're already doing.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the leadership aspect of it.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to take up this role, and how does it align with what is the legacy that you're trying to leave for the rest of Trinidad?
Yeah, cool. So when I was first approached, I was sort of unsure of the fit for me. Tattle is an older legacy business, and the things that I focus on are new things, and businesses that have like a strong desire to be technology driven and agile in that kind of way. Um, and I eventually bought into the plausibility that this business has the desire to move in that direction. And the first steps in doing so is getting the right people on board. And so I formed part of the early stages of a transition that is set to come with this kind of business, you know. And so I was an indicator to, or I am an indicator to the team and the market that there's shifts happening, and we want to make this business into something that is reflective of what today and the future would look like. And so I'm excited to be a part of it, and quite frankly honored that they would see me in that way, that it places so much weight of expectation on me that I pray that I'm able to live up to. But I got off to a running start so far, and I'm excited about the work that I'm able to do and contribute to. The team has been absolutely incredible, warm and supportive, and and they make me excited to get up and want to contribute even more than what might be stipulated by my position, you know. And so I'm grateful to them for that, and so I'm hopeful that we can really do something incredible and me be a part of that.
So Tattle is an financial institution.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
business, it's an institution.
Yeah, man.
So how do you intend to bring your innovation and entrepreneurship spirits into such an organization?
Um, Look, the energy has been one that's been very warm and supportive. And as much as they give opportunity for me to be that way, challenge, ask questions, bring resources, etc., is as much as I'll do. And so I'll push the bounds and the limits within reason, and then see where we fall. And so once there's that desire to do things differently, I will fill that. I will fill that space. You know, as you can tell, like I'm a very passionate person. I get excited about things, and I hope to turn that passion and excitement into strong action and delivery of what I think that we can potentially do with this business, with this institution.
Right. So, okay, so these institutions, right?
Yeah.
Moving away from Tata.
Yeah.
But institutions or I would put it, long-standing institutions that we all know, trust, and believe in,
Yeah.
there's a tendency where they are accustomed doing a thing a particular way.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to change it.
Yeah, exactly.
What type of leadership do you think institutions such as those require to bring it into the 21st century, or I would say pivot a bit?
Okay. So I think you need certain types of leaders for certain times, right? And so what I mean by that is that when a business gets to a mature state, you need a leader that is going to stabilize the ship and keep growth happening in a very structured, well-managed way. And when businesses get to large sizes, they aren't trying to be super innovative anymore. They're trying to do what they do well consistently and provide that level of predictability of brand experience to their consumer, right? That like when you go to KFC, you know that how the fries gonna taste already. You know how the chicken gonna taste, right? You're not going there to get surprises, right? You're not going there to experience the innovation of the chicken, you know? Like, no, just give me the same chicken every single time, right? And so to do that, you need a type of leader that is almost militarily driven, that is gonna say that this is the process that we need to follow every single time. You cannot deviate away from this, right? Because deviation causes unpredictability in the consumer's mind of what to experience with this brand, and we cannot afford that, right? And so you need that type of leader to drive that sort of brand consistency with that kind of product. But then, speaking about, like, stay with KFC for a second, right? Then the market begins to shift, right? Whereby people want more healthy food options, you know, and they see KFC as like not a everyday eating thing now, is a treat, right? And so now you need a kind of leader that is open to innovating and exploring while not destroying the core, right? KFC just can't up one day and say, well, only want healthy food, so now forget that, it's grilled chicken only. No, there's a market still for fried chicken. But there needs to be, in order for the business to continue to grow, there needs to be creativity around how do we adapt to where the market is shifting to, and is it still that people don't want this anymore in terms of that product, and that will be on a decline, or do we present it in a way that can still excite people and fill a specific need, you know? And so those questions now require a different kind of leader to really figure out what does innovation of the business and the business model look like. What do we keep? What do we change? Because there are shifts happening in the landscape. And map on now to technology, in the technology space, that happens so often and so regularly, whereby you need business leaders that can actually do both, can keep protecting the base while constantly thinking of what's next, and different kinds of leaders for different kinds of businesses. And so not bad or good, it's just about fit.
So what type of leader do you see yourself now in this phase of your life and in this phase of your business life?
Yeah, cool. My leadership in this current phase is one that is always about looking and identifying new opportunities, and either trying to go after things myself or supporting founders that are going after things. And so I am more like the catalytic leader, the leader that sees somebody doing something and pours that belief into them to go even harder, and brings together my network and my resources to really help catalyze that thing. And so whether it is within my own business or whether it is in other businesses that I may be advising in or invested in, I am that type of leader that brings a level of passion and excitement about the potential of what can happen in a business. And so I, in this stage of my life, have really been largely focused on businesses that are in the early stages, that are just scaling in the tens of millions sort of kind of range, right? And so being in a more established institution as well, like we mentioned with Tatil, it's interesting to see now having to adjust my leadership style and learn what do I adapt, what do I keep as we operate and speak to an institution, as you said, that's been around for over 100 years, So as you grow, you need to be mindful of adapting your leadership style to what is required now for where you are in that phase of your life.
So Kyle, your dad would have racked up.
Yeah, racked up, yeah.
Over 3 million miles. And anyone that knows Kyle as well knows that he's pretty much as in Trinidad as much as he's out of Trinidad. But traveling affords you opportunities.
For sure.
Really points of views, right? And what I want to get from you is that what are the types of opportunities out there for Trinbagonians from your experiences?
Man, tremendous, right? I think too often we look locally for our opportunities because you only know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. But I met actually just 2 weeks ago this guy. He used to work TTPS, right? And he started learning prompt engineering, right? Just teaching himself like more deeply how to leverage the generative AI tools, the ChatGPTs, the Groks from Twitter, Claudes, Perplexity, understanding how to leverage these tools. He started applying for jobs constantly. He applied for over 100 jobs, he told me. Then he saw this YouTube content creator was looking to hire, and he responded to her post on Instagram. Ended up getting an interview. The interview project was to build a course leveraging generative AI tools. He built the course and he was hired. He went from getting a TTPS salary to working for a big-time content creator with an incomparable salary.
Oh.
Right? Living right here in Trinidad, And this is possible, right? We live in a world now where the ability to create value is not restricted by any boundaries or borders anymore, And so once we begin understanding that we can pivot our focus to the global market and actually create value there, we're a small country, of highly capable people. They did well to give us gate. And so we're highly, highly educated people that have a hunger and a desire to learn and do things. Once we know those opportunities exist, we'll go after them. And so one of my intentions really is to create more sustainable pipelines for more people to be able to capitalize on those kinds of opportunities, and so that they aren't one-off things, they are now industry and infrastructure, and rails are built to capitalize on this.
Oh. So, Kyle, to the young entrepreneurs who are listening and who will be listening to this episode, what piece of advice would you give them in turning their dream into reality?
I would say be resolute on the dream that this is where I want to get to, but be flexible on the approach and the how. Because you can never connect the dots looking forward, but everything makes sense when you look back. You know, and a lot of times we get frustrated in what might feel like your life or your project or a company or something being derailed, when in reality is that it was time for that phase to be finished. And you need to take from it the learnings and move into the direction of what is next for you, you know? And so the vision of what you want to achieve, ultimately, like I said, this thing is not the money that I'm after, but is the freedom to live on my own terms, you know? And so that is the vision, that is the dream.
As your why.
Exactly, right? That's clear, right? And so the how you get to live on your own terms will be flexible. So you keep taking the learnings and moving on to the next thing. And you keep building on top of that until you get to whatever success looks like for you. But that success is always tied to your purpose and your passion. What do you care about? What did God put you on this earth to do, to create? Yeah.
So, on the blueprints, we have a segment called Rapid Blue.
Rapid
Blue.
All right, cool.
So, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and
Yeah,
the
man.
first thing that comes to your mind, that's the answer that we want to get.
Cool.
Right? Tell me when you're ready.
Let's go.
All right. So, when Kyle gets up in the morning, what's the app that he goes to first?
The first app that I go to,
Yeah.
truthfully, is a rotation between WhatsApp, Twitter, TikTok, or email. It's one of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coffee or coconut water?
Coconut water for sure, bro.
Who's one Caribbean leader that you deeply respect?
Oh my gosh. The Prime Minister of the Caribbean, Miss Mia Motley.
I like that title. All right. Phone call or voice note?
Phone call. Yeah.
Build fast or build bold?
I mean, it's both. You gotta build boldly fast.
I like that.
Yeah.
So a Caribbean country, that surprised you the most when you visited it?
Oh my gosh, Medellin, Colombia, by far. Yeah. Colombia, and especially Medellin, being a home of Pablo Escobar, has such a stigma because of what it was. But then when you get there now and see how they evolve, Jesus, it was absolutely incredible. So that's why I spend so much time there, because it inspires me to know that we can create something incredible within our lifetimes.
My final question. Was there somebody who mentored you?
Not a single person. I've had a few. I speak a lot about my dad, and then my mom for sure is my spiritual grounding. Every day, the reminder, did you pray? God told me this for you, you know? So my spiritual grounding comes from my mom. And so blessed to have good parents, right? A great family network as well. I've incredible aunts and uncles that have been super, super supportive. That I don't mention as much, but oh my gosh, they are a blessing. My grandparents, you know, so I have a really robust family network that I feel very proud of and really blessed to have. So that provides super incredible grounding. And then business leader wise, I was blessed to have the founder of SM Jalil, Dr. Mohammed. one of my closest friends. That's his dad, and he opened up so much opportunity to us to develop our leadership ability and confidence and view of the world that I will be forever indebted to him.
So, Kyle, if you were to go back in time and speak to young Kyle,
Yeah.
what would you tell him?
I would say be humble, because life will for sure humble you. I would say continue to be bold, continue to be brave. There's a lot you're gonna achieve. That sense of you have something in this world to contribute that's bigger than yourself is your compass, and hold true to it. Don't be afraid to fail. Lean into that. Cherish the people around you. You never know how much more time you have with them. Take lots of pictures, take lots of videos. You never know how much more time you have with the people that you love. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Kyle, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
I mean, on my social channels, I respond to people all the time. My Instagram, Kyle P. Maloney, my TikTok, my LinkedIn, my Twitter. Yeah, any one of these social channels.
Excellent.
Cool.
So, that listeners of the Blueprint podcast, there you have it, the blueprint of Kyle Maloney. And in this episode, we'd have had the opportunity to learn from a trailblazer in his own right. What we would have learned today is that as a young person growing up, yes, there is a trajectory that we expect all of us to go. But there's also another one, and that is your own path. Don't be afraid at all to pivot. Don't be afraid at all to pursue your own dreams and aspirations, and never give up on who you are. Stay true to yourself. We have also learned about the importance of family and how they play a big role, an important role in your own development in terms of supporting you, in terms of encouraging you, and of course, our extended family, those not related to us by blood, but those of us who give a helping hand along the way to push us forward towards our dreams and aspirations. So from this, support someone, support a young entrepreneur who is pursuing their own dreams and aspirations. Encourage them. Put them up on your social media at least today, and let us get the ball rolling. This is the blueprint, and continue to build your own blueprint. Until we see each other again, I am your host, Dr. Jelani Reed. Thank you.
Good job. You're a real good listener, bro.